Now, when we talk about changing culture, changing the way management occurs in a community, it's much different than an industry, and you must keep this in mind. My original title of the paper was The Application of Quality Management in a Political Environment, because that's what we're in, and we mustn't lose sight of it. The bad news, there's nobody really in charge. There is no permanent leader, there is no CEO. The mayor he's not really in charge of anything. He can destroy a lot of things. To create it is very, very difficult. Right? The mayor has a potential of leadership, but not a hell of a lot of authority. We need to understand the difference between managing and leading. Okay? Managing in New York is very difficult. Leadership is the real requirement. And how to do it, how to be a leader, how to discharge your obligations at a managerial position. Those are things we come to. The good news, leadership belongs to those who assert it. You can step out and be a leader if you know how to do it. And the first requirement of a leader is to be able to articulate a vision that others will follow with passion. And I heard a bit of that this morning. Okay? We have to do this about New York. It's worth doing. It can be done. And here's some ways to go about it. Like, that's leadership. And people in all walks of life can exert leadership. That doesn't guarantee that you'll get things done, because you need to reach the power of authority. But you can do an awful lot because you develop a following. And that's what we've seen in a number of communities. I'm going to get to that now in a moment. Now, what we have found is that if you use quality methodologies, it can provide a glue that keeps people working together. The community is full of ambitions on the parts of different people that come in conflict, and they tend to fall apart, to want to make war. But if you can, through quality methods, help them see something, and through quality methods, organize meetings, organize work groups, teach people how to do things in a quality way, they can begin to work together and hang together. Right? People who would be fighting can, if taught how to run a meeting, how to organize an attack on a problem, how to formulate a problem, how to recognize without a common aim they can't work together. All of those elementary ideas that are implied, or not implied, but made explicit in the quality movement. When we bring those to bear, we make a difference. And this is an extraordinary, I didn't know it would happen when we started, but it did. It does. We've created the Community Quality Council. And that's a group of people who come together for this purpose: to promote the introduction of quality management principles in every community in the United States, and to make quality management a way of life for all aspects of the community. That's what we set out to do. When it began, it certainly didn't look like this, because it was about a year after I first met Dr. Deming and went through my own personal transformation as a result. See, prior to that, as you heard, I have trouble holding a job. I've been in lots of things. And my experience at the Xerox Corporation, before I left to go to MIT, and my experiences in the federal government, left me most unhappy. I was not pleased with the way things went. Something inside me said, the way we're doing it is wrong. But at the same time, I didn't know what to do that was right. And you can't beat something with nothing. And so when I met Dr. Deming, and we published his book and made tapes, and I got to know him fairly well, his teachings made all my prior experience fall in place. And I went around the country visiting the places that were involved in quality. I went to Ford in the very early days. I went to the Pontiac division of General Motors. I went to the Nashua Corporation and talked to the people there. And it dawned on me that this was an extraordinary movement, needed something. And I asked the people there, what do you need outside your company to be successful? And they said, we need something like the JUSE in Japan to help us. So I called some people together, the SGC representative, the American Statistical Association, people from those companies I've named, and Schirkenbach and Mullen and some of those people whose names you know now, showed up at MIT. And we sat around and said, what are we going to do? Well, let's start a JUSE. So, okay, everybody take a little piece of the job, like writing a business plan and all of that. And a year later, we met, and I was the only one that was adequately underemployed. I was a professor. And so I had done my homework, but the others had not. They were busy. I mean, they were sinking under the weight. Imagine being at the very beginning at Ford. No way could Schirkenbach do anything. And true to the others. So about that time, I got a couple of calls. People were desperate. They went anywhere. And they heard we were working with Deming. And there was a group in Philadelphia that was decided to form something. Today it's called PACE, the Philadelphia Area Council on Excellence. And then there was a group in North Carolina, I believe it was. I can't remember now which it is. But they called up and said, there are some people that have heard about Deming and want to get together and do something. Can you tell us, can you help us? So when our group met later, and it was in the midst of a snowstorm in February, and it was very hard to get into Boston, but by the time those people showed up, and we reviewed where we were, and we said, you know what? There's no way we're going to form a JUSE in the United States. They spent 35 years getting where they are, and we're just starting. And we can't get anybody that wants to do it. They don't know what it's all about. We're going to have to do something else. Now, because Deming was crisscrossing the United States and developing awareness and giving his seminars, and we were producing the book and the tapes, we found that there were people everywhere who were turned on, didn't know what to do. And we said, you know, there's a parade out there. Why don't we go out and lead it? So we should. We said, let's make this a grassroots movement. Also, I have to tell you, my service in Washington as Assistant Secretary of Commerce made me very much aware, particularly coming in, working a couple of years, coming out, and very much aware that what makes America tick is not Washington. It's the people out there, the grassroots, doing things. They really are the people that make it happen. And the folks in Washington cannot. Because the country is just too big, too diverse. Too many things are going on, and it's really, we know, quality management. The guy at the top doesn't ever really know what's going on. Can only have a sample, and can never know the reality of the problems, and cannot prescribe the solutions to local problems. It cannot be done. Not on any big company. Not on any company that's more than a few years old. So we decided we would promote local activities. And we started just responding to people. Well, I was crisscrossing the United States, going to different places where people invited me to come and give advice, and I was learning from them what kind of, learn from Jimmy, what Brant, the people were teaching me. And we were running into a problem. We would go to a community, and people would get started, but then there was no way for people to learn locally. Where are they going to go to find out? Read Deming, read Out of the Crisis, read Crosby, and then we were in real trouble because they were not on the same wavelength. Or get stuff from Duran, that helped. And find it about, but it really wasn't much. You've got to go back 12 years. Not much in the literature, not many people who knew what they were really talking about and convinced them. No place to learn. And by accident, I ran across a group from Jackson, Michigan. Carol Hammond, her name was then, and David Schwinn. And they were developing a curriculum and trying to plant it in community colleges.